Okay, now I'm going to do something in this first one we've already done because you are going to need this skill to be able to actually do these. And I'm taking it one step at a time here because I don't want to go too fast. I don't need to go fast because we've made what we kind of need to get done. Okay, so my job is to find what the x equals. I don't need a number line because it's just an equals. There's no greater than, no less than. Just find what the x variable equals. Now, the problem is you have this parentheses, and in the parentheses we have a 2x plus negative 5. Well, we don't want that parentheses there. So what I do is it has a multiplying number of 2, so I'm going to multiply, okay? Now, rather than going off the side, all you do is take 2 times 2, and that's 4. That would need an x on it, okay? Let me get a sharper marker so you guys can see it. So 2 times 2 is 4, plus, and then I need to multiply again. I need to take 2 times negative 5, okay? So 2 times 2 is 4x, and 2 times negative 5 is negative 10, okay? Now, as soon as you have those things written out, you need to cross out the parentheses and that number that was outside. Okay, get rid of that. Okay, now I still got plus negative 1x and equals 11. Okay. All right, now you have two different x's here. You have a 4 and a negative 1. You want to draw kind of a little pyramid, okay, because they're on the same side of the equals. So I draw a little pyramid and I write add, okay? Because all I need to do is add 4 to negative 1. 4 plus negative 1 is 3, so 3x. Now as soon as you got those together, cross the x's out, and you got plus negative 10 equals 11. And now that this is my only x, I can dot it and circle it and then do the rest of the problem. So I have a negative 10, so I need a plus 10. If it's negative, you plus it. Just like if it's minus, you plus it. So I got 3 dot x equals, and then 11 plus 10 is 21. Okay, so now I divide by 3. And 21 divided by 3 equals 7. So that's my answer for x. Okay, next problem. This time we're solving for y. There's 2 letters, they're both y's. Okay. Well, the first thing you need to do is get rid of the parentheses. So I take 2 times 6. Now neither 2 or 6 has a y, so I just write 12 down, don't put a y. Plus. And then I take 2 times negative 4y. Remember, 2 times negative 4y, well, that's going to be negative 8y. And as soon as I got those two things, we can cross out the parentheses and the number outside that was multiplied by it. Okay, and then I got plus negative 3y equals 1. Okay, now you treat y just like it was x. Okay, so the y's are on the same side this time, so don't don't go underneath. You make a kind of a pyramid shape and just write the word add. Okay. So I add negative 8 plus negative 3, and that's negative 11. So it'd be negative 11, y, cross those out. And then I've got the 12 equals 1. Again, let me replay that. I add those, okay, negative 11y, and there's also a 12, so I got to remember to plus 12, and then equals 1. Okay, so my y, it needs a dot, and then plus 12, so I'm minus 12, minus 12. So I have negative 11 dot y, and then 1 minus 12 is negative 11, and then we just divide. That's always kind of your last step, is to divide. Okay, so negative 11 divided by negative 11 is positive 1. Okay. Okay, next problem. There's 2 x's. There's a parentheses first, though. Okay, so you need to get rid of that. It has an outside multiplier of 3. So I take 3 times 4x and 3 times negative 40. Now 3 times 4 is 12 with an x on it. plus, and then you got to go to your calculator probably and take 3 times negative 40. That's negative 120. Okay, now cross that out. And then we also have on this side, I cross this out because this turned into this. But there's also a plus negative 4x that equals, and then negative 16. That's an x, sorry. Okay. Okay, so your x's, you have 2 of them. That's not going to work, so you need to make kind of a pyramid that connects them, and we are adding them. Okay. So I add 12 plus negative 4. Gave me 8, so I have 8x. Now cross out your x's. Now before I get to the equals, I have a negative 120. That doesn't just go away. Equals negative 16. Okay, now I can dot my x, my 8x, and then I have negative 120. So I plus 120, and I plus 120. So 8 dot x equals, and then negative 16 plus 120 is 104. Okay, now you can divide. Okay, so I divide 104 by 8, and that is 13. Okay, next one. Again, finding what the x equals. Again, here's my parentheses. Outside is a 3. Okay. So I take 3 times negative 2. That's negative 6 with x. Again, that times that's negative 6 with x. And then I take 3 times negative 2, and that's negative 6 without an x. Now I got the 2 things written, so cross out that parentheses and the number. Okay, now before I get to the equals, I did have this 4x, so I need to write plus 4x before I write equals 0. Okay. So again, this times this was negative 6x. This times this was negative 6. Then we cross it out. But before equals, we have a 4x equals 0. Okay, now the x's, they're on the same side. Again, they're I put all of them where the letters are on the same side. So I just make my pyramid and write the fact that I'm just adding them together. Okay, so I just go negative 6 plus 4, and that's negative 2x. Again, this plus this is negative 2x. Okay, now we forget those. Now before I write equals, we had a plus negative 6 equals and then 0. Okay, so now that there's only one x in the problem, we can dot it and circle it. So there's a negative 6 we have to deal with by adding 6. So negative 2 dot x, there's nothing else over there, so equals 6, and then it's just dividing. Okay, 6 divided by negative 2 equals negative 3. So that's what x equals. This is something you got to get good at when we move on to the next one, okay? If you're struggling with this, we probably need to write another one, but that's fine. Okay, so you guys got to be honest with me if you're struggling so I know I can't move on, okay? X equals. Okay, here's my parentheses. It has an outside multiplier of 3, okay? So I take 3 times 4. 3 times 4 is 12 with x, okay? Plus, because I have another thing, I need to take 3 times 14. 3 times 14. That is 42. Okay, as soon as I have the two products, I can cross out the parentheses and that 3. This has turned into this. But before I get to my equals, I have a 3x. So plus 3x equals negative 18. Okay, again, there's 2 different x's, but they're on the same side. So I'm going to draw my adding pyramid. That just means I add 12 plus 3. What is 12 plus 3? 15. so 15x. Okay, now before I get to the equals, I have this plus 42. So plus 42, then equals, and then negative 18. Okay, so here's my x. I dot and circle it. And this plus 42, we need to minus him. Okay, so what do I have? I've got 15.x. Then everything else, I don't really have anything else before I get to the equals. Whoa, sorry, I've screwed that up. So 15.x, nothing else, and then equals. And then I need to take negative 18 minus 42. That's negative 60. Okay, now we can divide by 15, and that's going to be my answer. The negative 60 divided by 15 is negative 4. Some of you visual people here. Oh, I do. Okay, next problem, finding what the x equals. Okay, 4 plus negative 3x with a negative 1 outside. Okay, so I take negative 1 times 4. Again, I take negative 1 times 4. That's negative 4 plus, and then I take negative 1 times negative 3. It's positive 3, okay? But that one has x on it, okay? Because this factor here had an x. So I have my two things. Got your parentheses, cross out that and the outside. Now before we write equals, we did have this 5x, so I put plus 5x, and then I can put equals 22. Okay, here are my x's. They're on the same side, so I write add, make my adding pyramid. 3 plus 5 is 8, so 8x, and then cross out those x's. Now before equals, we had negative 4. You can't forget about other things, okay, before you write equals, 22. Okay, so I'm going to dot the only x I have, and I have a negative 4 outside, so I'm going to be plussing 4. 8.x, 22 plus 4 is 26. And now I can divide. Okay, I'm going to get a decimal here. 26 divided by 8 is 3.25. Okay, my next problem, finding what x equals. Okay, so there's a parentheses with 1x plus negative 5, but it has a multiplier of 2. So 1, 2. Okay, so first I take 2 times 1x. Again, 2 times 1x. Well, it'd be 2 with an x. And then I take 2 times negative 5. 2 times negative 5. That is negative 10. Okay, so this is my parentheses and the number outside it. That goes away. Now, before I get equals, I had the 1x here. So plus 1x equals negative 4. Okay, so here's the equals, and here's where my x's are. They're on the same side, so I make an adding pyramid. And I take 2 plus 1. Well, that's not hard. 2 plus 1 is 3 with x. Cross those out. And then I also, before I write equals, I can't forget I have a negative 10 being added equals negative 4. Okay, so now I can dot my x and circle it. Now outside we got a negative 10, so we got a plus 10, plus 10. So I've got 3.x. Now I got the equals because there's nothing else over there. Negative 4 plus 10 equals 6. And now I can divide by 3. And that equals 2. Okay, and then the last one I'm going to go over, this time the letter is y, but you do the problem the same way. Okay. Inside the parentheses, I have 1y plus 9, and it's all being multiplied by the 5. So I take 5 times 1y and 5 times 9. Okay, so 5 times 1 is 5 with a y, and then 5 times 9 is 45. Now, before you write equals, you have a negative 3y. plus negative 3y equals 7. So 5y, 5 times 9 is 45, cross it out, but then there's another negative 3y. Okay, so here's my equals, and the y's are obviously on the same side together, so I make the adding pyramid. Okay, again, you take 5 plus negative 3, 5 plus negative 3, 5 plus negative 3 is 2y. Okay, now before I have equals, I have a plus 45 equals 7. Now that I only have one single y, I can dot it with its multiplier. So 2 times y plus 45 equals 7. So we undo the plus 45 by minusing. Okay, so I've got 2 dot y, 2 times y, and then nothing else there, so equals. And then 7 minus 45 is negative 38. Okay, and then you divide by 2. Okay, negative 38 divided by 2 is negative 19. Okay, now it's important to do a good job on this because you can pause the video and do the 4 problems. Now, the other packet's what we're aiming for. Now, you need to just do one thing. You don't even need a calculator for all the problems. Okay, we're going to take this one step at a time. I have 2 equations. X equals 2 times y plus negative 5. And then the other equation is 2 times x plus negative 1 times y equals 11. Now what I eventually have to do is solve for x and y without graphing. Okay? Now, this is what you're going to do. Because it's confusing, so that's why we're taking it one step at a time. But I need to explain why I have written down what I wrote. Okay, in this equation we had an x by itself, so that has been placed in a box, and I have circled the other side so I know what the x is equal to, 2y plus negative 5. Okay, this x was by itself, so I put a box around it, and I circled what that was equal to, 2y plus negative 5. Then what I did was I went and wrote the other equation, 2x plus negative 1y equals 11. That's why you see this, 2x plus negative 1y equals 11. I just copied that over here. Now, the reason why x is circled, because that's the variable I have all by itself, okay? So I have replaced x with a parentheses. Then I have simply widened the parentheses. Okay, so in this equation, x has been replaced. I've widened it. And x comes out, and then we put what it's equal to inside. So 2y plus negative 5. That's all I need you to do is write 2y plus negative 5. And eventually then you'd solve for y. But we'll take that tomorrow. Okay, 3 times x, that's all I need you to do there. Okay, we're not going to find the answers today. 3x plus negative 4y equals negative 16. That's one equation. And x equals 4 times y plus negative 40. So this, I had the x by itself here, and I know that that x is equal to 4 times whatever y is plus negative 40. Then I wrote this other equation here, the 3 times x plus negative 4 times y equals negative 16. Okay. Now again, the reason x has been circled is because it was the x that was in the box. So I have replaced that with a parentheses and then widened the parentheses so that I'm able to put this entire expression that x is equal to. If x is equal to this crap, we can put that crap in the parentheses. So 4y plus negative 40. Okay, 4y plus negative 40, and then you don't need to do the rest of it. Okay, pretty simple stuff I'm having you do to start off with. Okay, next one, x equals 6 plus negative 4 times y. And then 2x plus 2 times x plus negative 3 times y equals 1. So the x was by itself here. It equals 6 plus negative 4 times y. Okay, good to know. So I wrote this equation here, I just copied down. 2x plus negative 3y equals 1. Now I have chosen to circle the x because the x was what was by itself. So x is out. I make a blank parentheses. Then I make just make it a little bit wider. That's what I'm doing from here to here. And in that parentheses, I can insert 6 plus negative 4y, because if that's what x is equal to, that's what we want to put in there. 6 plus negative 4y. Okay, if you run out of room, just go over the parentheses a little bit. Won't hurt. Okay, 4 times x plus 3 times y equals 0. And then here it says the y is equal to negative 2 times x plus negative 2. So I have boxed the y up because that was the variable that was all by itself, and that's equal to negative 2 times x plus negative 2. Okay, so I wrote the other equation, 4 times x plus 3 times y equals 0. Now this time I have chosen to circle the y for a reason. It was the y that was by itself, okay? So I want to get the y out, okay? So y has been replaced with a blank parentheses, and then from here to here I've just made that parentheses wider because of y. I replace y with what it is equal to, negative 2x plus negative 2. Okay, and now I have matching x's. You should always have matching letters when you're down here. Okay, 1 times x plus 2 times y equals negative 4. Y is equal to 1x plus negative 4. Okay, so the y has been put in a box because it's all by itself. There's nothing with it. There's not even a number in front multiplying it. It's equal to 1 times x plus negative 5. Okay, so I'm good to know that. That's my base. That's what I call my base equation. Now I write the other equation, 1x plus 2y equals negative 4. I copy it down. Okay, now this time I've chosen to circle the y, and the reason why is because I have y in the box. So we want to replace that with a parentheses, and then I make the parentheses a little bit wider so I can fit what y is equal to, because it's not equal to just any number. It's 1 times x plus negative 5. It's called replacement of equality. So now I have x and x. Okay, next one. X equals 1 times y plus 9, and then 5x plus negative 3y equals 7. Okay, so I had and this is my base equation because I had in that equation I had a letter that was all by itself. So I put that in a box and circled what it was equal to. In this case, 1 times x. 1 times y plus 9. I'm going to write base because that's the base equation. So I write the other equation, 5x plus negative 3y equals 7. Okay? So that is what I have. Okay, now it was the x in the box, so that's why I've chosen to circle and replace the x. So x becomes a blank parentheses, and I just make that parentheses a little wider, because I know x is equal to more than just a number. It's equal to 1y plus 9. Okay, and then I have y and y, meaning I would solve for y first, but we don't. I need to take you through that on another assignment. Okay, this one, 3 times x plus 3 times y equals negative 18. And then I have a y with nothing in front of it or nothing after it equals 4 times x plus 14. So this is my base equation. Okay, the y is by itself, and then it is equal to 4 times x plus 14. So I write the other equation, 3 times x plus 3 times y equals negative 18. And I have chosen to circle the y because it was the y that was in the box. So I replace y with 4x plus 14. Or yeah, I just made it wider. 4x, do it down here. Because first I make an empty parentheses, then I widen it, keeping everything else the same. Okay. All right, then my next one, y equals 4 plus negative 3x. That's my base because it has a y by itself. And then the other one, 5x plus negative 1y equals 22. So I want to write that equation. Okay, so I have chosen to circle the y because y is in the box. So the y gets replaced with an empty parentheses. And in that parentheses down here, I need to put 4 plus negative 3x. Okay, that's all I have to say on that. We're going to take it a step further tomorrow.